Pokémon Next Generation, Fanfiction, Season 1, Episode 7, created by Marcus J. Anthony, narrated by Roach. As Mark, Rachel, and Anthony arrived at Pewter City, they noticed the Pokémon Center was bustling with activity, with many gym challengers seeking healing for their defeated Pokémon. Concerned by the sight, Mark suggested they adjourn to the diner to strategize for his upcoming battle.
Who's the Pewter City Gym leader?
His name is Forrest.
Oh, he sounds like a grass-type trainer with that name.
No, he's actually a rock-type specialist.
Before Mark could voice his thoughts about Forrest, his attention was drawn to a voice across the room. A doctor was consoling a distressed trainer about their injured Pokémon, prompting Mark to pause, his curiosity piqued by the conversation. With excitement bubbling inside him, Mark leapt from his seat upon realizing that the doctor was none other than Brock, the former Pewter City Gym leader and a childhood friend of Ash Ketchum, as well as the older brother of the current gym leader, Forrest. Eagerly, Mark approached Brock and introduced himself, thrilled to meet such a renowned figure. However, as Mark mentioned his lifelong admiration for Ash Ketchum, Brock's expression abruptly shifted, his demeanor turning hostile. Sternly, he informed Mark that he had numerous Pokémon to attend to, many of which were injured at his brother's gym, effectively ending their conversation. As Mark turned around, he found himself face to face with Victor, the trainer he had encountered at Oak Laboratory who proudly displayed his Pewter City Gym badge. Victor boasted about being the first trainer to defeat Forrest in weeks and inquired if Mark had caught any more Pokémon since they last met. Mark revealed his recent catches, Pidgey, Butterfree, and Ghastly, aka Nimbus, Gasper, and Wilfred. Victor laughed mockingly at Mark's party, dismissing it as weak and unsuitable for earning the Boulder badge. He then revealed his newest Pokémon, Omanyte, which he had revived from the Helix fossil found in Mount Moon. Victor emphasized how his Kabuto and Omanyte's water typing had secured his victory over Forrest. He taunted Mark, reminding him of the disadvantage his Charmander, Pidgey, and Butterfree faced against rock types, and scoffed at the perceived lack of combat prowess in Mark's Ghastly.
I think we showed this dusty little bone scavenger a lesson, Master!
Undeterred by Victor's taunts, Mark boldly issued a challenge to him, proposing an official battle. To Mark's surprise, Victor accepted, acknowledging that the prize money would come in handy after spending his funds on reviving Omanyte. Additionally, Mark recognized the opportunity for his own Pokémon to gain practice against rock types. Eager to test their skills, Mark, Rachel, and Anthony joined Victor on the training battlefield behind the Pokémon Center, Victor exuding confidence, suggesting they each use their respective teams, Mark with all 4 of his Pokémon and Victor with his 2 fossil Pokémon. The battle commenced with Mark leading with Nimbus, while Victor sent out Omanyte. Mark commanded Nimbus to execute a gust attack, but it proved ineffective against Omanyte. In response, Omanyte retaliated with Rollout, prompting Nimbus to evade by flying above the attack. However, Omanyte swiftly countered with a water gun, striking Nimbus and causing it to falter. Despite the direct hits, Nimbus valiantly struggled to continue the fight. Mark ordered a wing attack, but Victor instructed Omanyte to withdraw into his shell, mitigating the impact of Pidgey's attack. The collision appeared to take a toll on Nimbus, leaving it vulnerable as Omanyte seized the opportunity to deliver a decisive blow with another rollout, ultimately securing the victory for Omanyte in the battle. A frustrated Mark returned Nimbus and sent out Wilfred. It hit Omanyte with a side beam, which resulted in it to be confused. Omanyte couldn't focus and was repeatedly hit by Wilfred's tackles, but that only did minor damage. A yelling Victor ordered Omanyte to use Water Gun on itself, and it sprayed itself out of confusion. Mark called Wilfred to use Sleep Powder, but Omanyte used Rollout to avoid it. Omanyte used the Water Gun then Rollout combination like it did with Pidgey to strike down Butterfree. The bug type managed to take flight, to which Victor praised Butterfree's tenacity, but added it's still a weakling. Mark called for Stun Spore, and Victor called for another Water Gun. Both moves hit. Wilfred was unable to battle, and Omanyte was stuck with paralysis. Gasper was sent out next. Mark called it to use Shadow Ball, and it hit Omanyte, who couldn't move, and it was unable to battle. With a confident smile, Victor sent out his Kabuto, catching Gasper off guard with an immediate Aqua Jet that left it reeling. Following up swiftly, Kabuto unleashed an ancient power attack, knocking Gasper out cold. In response, Mark sent out Charlie, who bravely launched into a series of scratches against Kabuto. However, Kabuto's hardened defense dulled the impact of Charlie's claws, and her Ember attack proved similarly ineffective. Kabuto capitalized on Charlie's momentary vulnerability induced by Leer, striking it with successive Aqua Jet and Hidden Power attacks. Despite the relentless assault, Charlie refused to yield. Summoning her strength, she let out a defiant roar before unleashing a powerful blast of blue flame, Dragon Breath. Marc cheered with excitement at this newfound ability. Encouraged by the success of her new move, Marc ordered Charlie to use Dragon Breath once more, but Kabuto swiftly dodged the attack with Aqua Jet and countered with a fierce strike. Yet, Charlie remained resolute, refusing to admit defeat.
"Charlie, it's okay, you don't have to keep battling!"
Marc cried, but Charlie roared again. As the battle reached its climax, Charlie unleashed a third Dragon Breath while Kabuto retaliated with Ancient Power. The powerful collision struck both Pokemon. Charlie was left lying unconscious, while Kabuto barely pulled itself up to stand. The match was declared over and Kabuto was named the victor. However, the victory was short-lived as Kabuto collapsed mere seconds later, exhausted from the intense battle. Marc rushed to Charlie's side, concern etched on his face, while Victor grinned triumphantly as he returned to Kabuto. Without a word, Victor turned and walked away. Anthony and Rachel attempted to console Marc, but tears welled up in his eyes as he struggled to contain his emotions. Without a word, he returned Charlie to her Pokeball and bolted through the Pokemon Center and out into the city, leaving his friends behind. Concerned for Marc, Anthony and Rachel were at a loss for what to do until they were approached by Dr. Brock, accompanied by his Blissey. Brock assured them that he would go in search of Marc and advised them to wait at the Pokemon Center for his return. Meanwhile, Brock and Blissey wandered through the bustling streets until they eventually found Marc seated alone in a quiet courtyard, gazing at the flower beds. Taking a seat beside him, Brock gently offered to have Blissey take care of Marc's Pokemon for him. Marc handed over his Pokeballs and Blissey jogged back to the Pokemon Center with them in tow. Brock praised Marc's efforts in battle, mentioning he hadn't seen a trainer with such heart since Ash Ketchum. He then offered a heartfelt apology for his earlier sternness, explaining that his feelings towards Ash were complicated due to their fallout after the Pokemon War. Opening up about his own struggles, Brock revealed the depth of his disagreement with Ash's methods during the war, which led to a rift between them. He shared the pain of losing loved ones and Pokemon during those tumultuous times, a sorrow compounded by the fact that some perished on his own operating table. Despite harboring resentment towards Ash for a time, Brock acknowledged the widespread adoration for the world champion garnered as a hero. However, news of Ash's and Pikachu's kidnapping left Brock feeling a profound sense of sadness and guilt, prompting him to reflect on their fractured relationship. He emphasized to Marc the importance of cherishing the meaningful moments in life, and cautioned against losing sight of what truly matters amidst the pursuit of dreams. Acknowledging Brock's words, Marc realized the importance of living in the present and decided to shift his focus to the upcoming battle with Forrest. Brock assured Marc that his brother was an exceptional gym leader, even stronger than himself, and possessed a fervent passion for battling. He explained that Forrest's aggressive battling style was driven by his dedication to helping new trainers grow. Brock surmised that Victor's decision to use only 2 Pokemon in their battle was likely an attempt to simulate the conditions Marc would face against Forrest. Rather than being cocky, Victor may have been subtly preparing Marc for the intensity of his brother's battles. Brock praised his Charmander for learning Dragon Breath, but felt it wouldn't be enough to defeat Forrest. Brock revealed when he was in medical school, he had a part-time job as a Pokemon move tutor, and he wanted to help boost Marc's Pokemon that will assist him against Forrest. Marc thanked Brock for their conversation, and the two headed to the Pokemon Center. Marc joined his worried friends at the diner, and they had something to eat before Blissey and Brock returned with Marc's Pokemon.
"How about a test run, kid? Battle me,"
Brock said, and Marc's jaw fell. They headed back to the battlefield. Brock sent out his rock-type Sudowoodo, and Marc sent out Charlie. Marc scanned Charlie with his Pokedex, and his astonishment at Charlie's newly learned Metal Claw quickly turned into determination as he strategized his next move. Marc quickly called for Metal Claw, but Sudowoodo dodged and used Hammer Arm, bashing Charlie into the ground. Sudowoodo used Stone Edge. Giant rocks were falling all over Charlie. Marc called for another Metal Claw, and Charlie slashed her Steel Claws through the rocks, turning them into pebbles. Charlie used Dragon Breath, hitting Sudowoodo, causing it to be paralyzed. Charlie seized the opportunity, unleashing a powerful Metal Claw attack that left Sudowoodo unable to continue the battle. Marc was in complete shock. He defeated Brock in a Pokemon battle. Anthony and Rachel danced around him with excitement as if he had won the Pokémon League. Brock revealed Marc was ready to face Forrest, and after giving Charlie a super potion, the group headed to Pewter City Gym. A gang of young Geodude was playing in the garden beside the gym. They bounced towards Brock and dove on him with affection. One in particular wrapped its arms around Marc's legs, hugging him tight. Marc struggled to walk and fell forward, eliciting laughter from the group. They entered the Rock-type gym, and Brock called for Forrest, introducing him to Marc. Forrest expressed that he had only countered one decent challenger over the past few weeks and hoped Marc wouldn't disappoint. Brock, Rachel, and Anthony traveled up to the seating area, while a referee walked out to the battlefield. 4 teenagers charged at Brock as they entered the gym. He introduced them as his younger siblings Susie, Timmy, Billy, and Tilly. He sadly mentioned that he had lost his parents, 4 other siblings, and his beloved Steelix in the Pokemon War. The youngest 4 weren't old enough to fight, for which he was grateful. He wished none of his family members had to participate, but they all wanted to fight by Ash's side and bring down Giovanni. The referee announced the rules. Marc was allowed to use all the Pokemon in his party and could switch Pokemon anytime he wished. Forrest could only use 2 Pokemon and could not switch mid-battle. Forrest tossed a Pokeball and out came a Geodude. This one was larger than the others Marc had met outside and had aggression in its eyes. Marc quickly commanded Wilfred to use Psybeam, but Geodude countered with a rollout, reminiscent of Victor's tactics in their previous battle. However, Geodude managed to launch its body high while rolling like a missile, bashing into Butterfree. Forrest then called for Rock Throw. The giant rock hurled towards Wilfred until Marc ordered it to use Energy Ball, a move Brock had taught it. The giant rock was blasted into sand, shocking both Forrest and his Geodude. However, some sand got into Wilfred's eyes, causing it to be slightly blinded. Marc urged Wilfred to listen for Geodude and use Energy Ball again. The green sphere collided with Geodude, but it used Defense Curl to push through the attack. It then followed up with Smackdown, and the partially blinded Butterfree couldn't dodge, resulting in it being struck down for the KO. Marc returned Wilfred and sent out Nimbus. Forrest remarked that he would have laughed, but was expecting some surprises from Marc, suggesting he might have had a guardian angel as he glanced at Brock. Forrest ordered Geodude to use another defense curl, and Marc commanded Nimbus to use Steel Wing. Nimbus struck Geodude, causing it some damage. In response, Geodude unleashed Rock Tomb, hitting Pidgey, but it showed its determination and took flight again. It dove down with another Steel Wing, but Geodude managed to dodge. Unfortunately, the metal wing pierced into a boulder, trapping Nimbus. Seizing the opportunity, Geodude used Rollout, knocking Pidgey into unconsciousness. Marc was becoming frustrated. Even with Brock teaching his Pokemon super effective moves, Forrest proved to be strong. Gasper was sent out. Marc called for Hypnosis, but Geodude evaded it with a Rollout. Marc then ordered Gasper to use Icy Wind, a move taught by Brock. This struck Geodude and slowed it down. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Gasper followed up with a Shadow Ball, blasting Geodude for the KO. Forrest expressed his enjoyment of the battle with Marc, but suggested that the end was near. He tossed his Pokeball, and out came a monstrous Rhyhorn.
Is it time to switch out, Master?
Marc gave Gasper some encouragement and ordered it to use Icy Wind. However, Rhyhorn quickly used Dig to evade the attack and emerged blasting out. It followed up with a Mega Horn on Ghastly, causing it to collapse. Despite this, Gasper managed to hover back up and retaliated with Confusion, sending Rhyhorn crashing through a boulder. Gasper then unleashed Shadow Ball, but Rhyhorn countered with Rock Blast, resulting in a powerful explosion. Emerging from the dust, Rhyhorn charged forward and pounced on Gasper, delivering a super effective crunch. Ghastly was unable to continue the battle. Marc sent out Charlie, who roared at Rhyhorn with great courage. Charlie then used Dragon Breath, striking Rhyhorn, but failing to paralyze it. In response, Rhyhorn countered with Mega Horn, dealing minor damage. Forrest called for Rock Blast, but Charlie destroyed the rocks with Metal Claw and charged at Rhyhorn, slashing it with a direct hit. Rhyhorn sustained significant damage, but managed to rise back up. It then dug underground and emerged with a super effective move, hitting Charlie hard. Though Charlie was still able to battle, Marc decided to call it back. The group was puzzled by Marc's decision, as he seemingly had no other Pokemon left to switch out. Or did he? Marc surprised everyone by throwing a Pokeball summoning a Bellsprout. Rachel and Anthony were stunned by this revelation. Marc explained that he had caught Bellsprout by the flower beds in the courtyard just before Brock had found him. Bellsprout was his 5th Pokemon. Rachel sighed, noting that it was another poison type joining their group.
Dirty poison type!
While Brock looked on with a proud smile. Bellsprout unleashed Vine Whip, surprising everyone with its strength as it picked up Rhyhorn and slammed it into the ground. Despite the impact, Rhyhorn rose to its feet, shaking off the daze. Another Vine Whip was launched towards it, prompting Rhyhorn to dig underground and strike Bellsprout with the dig, causing significant damage. Seeing Bellsprout in distress, Marc called for it to use Stun Spore, successfully paralyzing Rhyhorn. Marc quickly recalled Bellsprout and brought Charlie back out onto the field. "I want to win this with you, Charlie!" Marc cheered, and Charlie responded by sprinting at the stunned Rhyhorn and slashing it with Metal Claw. Rhyhorn was unable to battle. The match had gone to Charlie and Marc of New Bark Town. Marc held back tears as he received his first gym badge, the Boulder Badge. Charlie, Anthony, and Rachel dove on him with excitement. Even the young Geodude embraced Marc, knocking him over. Marc's Pokedex informed him he had received 3,000 Pokédollars for defeating his first gym leader. Brock placed his hand on Marc's shoulder, telling him he should be proud, and he thanked Marc. For the first time in years, he felt hope. He believed that Ash would be found and they would reconcile, as they had a lot to catch up on. A Nurse Joy in casual wear entered the gym with a baby in her arms. Brock introduced her as his wife, and she held their son Flint, named after his late father. Rachel doted over baby Flint, and Marc didn't get the chance to hold him as the young Geodude tugged at his leg. Brock handed Marc a Pokeball, mentioning it belonged to the young Geodude who seemed to be very fond of him. Brock wanted him to take the Geodude along and create amazing memories, just as Brock had with his Geodude. Marc took the Pokeball and the happy young Geodude dove inside, becoming Marc's 6th Pokemon.
Geodude has been registered to your Pokédex.
Anthony praised Marc for already obtaining a party of 6. You know what they say, gotta catch 'em all.